Ladies and gents, we've got two more sessions coming up before our first coffee breaks. I'd say hang tight. We're nearly there, so don't worry. We're going to get another chance to get some caffeine in our veins. And like I said, if you are in the auditorium, please just try and stay quiet because we've got some speakers coming on stage. That would be fantastic. Thank you. So we are starting off with a bang this morning because we're going straight into our next session. And this one, I have to say, I'm particularly excited about. And as I mentioned, if there's anyone at the back in the room, please do try and be as quiet as you possibly can. Tap your peers on the shoulders. Thank you. I don't want to give them a shush, but it sounds like something a mean teacher would do. But shh. Oh, it works. The power. Okay, I'm not going to abuse it, I promise. Right. So on to our next session. I'm particularly excited about it, not because they are our main sponsor, but because of the fact that Populous are one of the leading organizations in the world who build some of the most fantastic, awe-inspiring stadia, sports stadiums, sports venues in the world. Chances are, if you've been to a live venue to see some live sport, particularly in the States, but across Europe as well, you've been in one of their stadiums, right? They are famous, they're groundbreaking, and this session is going to be looking into, well, as it says on the tin, enhancing your fan experience through innovation and through designing innovative stadiums that allow organizations to look at different ways of activating brand activation, revenue streams, etc., etc. But they are very much at the forefront pioneering this space. So it's going to be a very, very interesting two-part presentation. First part, we're going to have Simon Borg, who's going to come up, and Simon heads brand activation for Populous in EMEA. So he's been instrumental in creating some of the most memorable brand experiences and stadia across Europe. Really, his expertise is bringing to life architectural spaces that make sure that fans leave with real lasting memories and bringing revenue streams to organizations. And then his colleague Jorge, is going to join him next afterwards. Other way around? Jorge's going to go first? Okay, Jorge's going to go first. Well, then I'm happy to introduce Jorge as well onto the stage. And Jorge, of course, is the director of Populous for Spain. And he's been absolutely crucial in Populous's projects, across the country as well, and he's going to be giving a little bit of a glimpse into some of the fantastic work they do in this very country. 30 minutes, floor is yours, gents. Here's the clicker. Please give them a warm round of applause.
Hello, hola, hola. Buenos días, good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Yep. So, I'm going to try to be quick. Simon has probably more interesting stuff to say than myself, but I will go quickly through a overview of what we have done in the last 40 years, summary in 50 minutes, so it's going to be really quick. And the point is here to show you guys what we have been doing in terms of countries, sport, entertainment, all over the place. So it's a quite bunch of work that we have done. Firstly, I get the intros we already done. So Simon Borg is our Director of Creative Activation in the EMEA area, and I'm Jorge Betancor, which I'm the Director in Spain. We've been in Populous for quite a long time now, so happy to go through the presentation. So the first one is obviously who we are. We are a global architect and design practice. Some of those dots, so these dots are our offices, so we still have a room to growth, hopefully soon. We have currently 27 offices, and we are around 1,200 employees probably last Monday. Next Monday will be some of them more. And the idea is that we've been designing one of the most iconic sport and entertainment stadiums and arenas in the world, such as Yankee Stadium, Tottenham Hotspur, the Sphere in Vegas, and so many. So overall, we have worked in around 3,500 venues, projects in the world. So as I said before, I'm going to go through quickly some experience that we had in different countries and different decades, so you can have an understanding of how the brands and how the spectator experience has changed. So we are talking about sport and brands, nothing bigger and probably than Yankees. So the challenge was quite a big one, because at the time they have one of the biggest and most iconic sport infrastructure in the world, I would say. So I think for me, this space in particular, it's can summarize the work that we did. So how we can, make something even more iconic, bring the value of the brand, make aware of the people that work into the stadium, that are working in a different scale and different, kind of importance. So if you have the opportunity or you haven't done yet, you should. So when you walk to this is a great hall, which pretty much almost every one of the fans experience walk through, and the scale of the space is enormous. So it's like, okay, this is a different piece of stadium that I'm walking into. We try to retain the materiality of the existing, so still you are connected to that iconic classic stadium back in the days. And again, it can get bigger than a Yankees as a sport brand. So I think this space in particular, the whole project is really successful, but this space is also like really good for them because they run events for 1,500 people out of the game day. So it's quite a good one. This one is connected to the Super Bowl. We've been lucky enough to work with the NFL and Super Bowl for the last 39 years. So the challenge here is how can you make a club stadium transform into an NFL Super Bowl brand in one day? Because basically this is a one-day show, maybe a week for the fan zones and that. So it's not an easy task because obviously we take care of every stakeholder of the stadium, from GA admission tickets to the most hospitality ticket, but also from people that we are watching from our TV. So as I said, like 39 years of experience on this one. It's been quite a lot of stories that we can keep that for probably another chat. The next one is the O2 Arena in London. As you're aware, this dome was done for an exhibition back in the days, and then this was one of the famous white elephant at the time. So the challenge was like, okay, so how do we create a space that can become one of the largest, if not the largest, venue arena in the world? Without O2 at the time was, asking us to try to get away of the corporate image, because obviously O2 is a really corporate brand. So we did our best, and I think we get something successful that you can walk into the space. Obviously, you get connected to the brand, but still really far from the classic corporate foam brand. And as you know, you can run any kind of event here, from tennis, football, small football, concerts, a live event for kids, and probably with MSG is one of the biggest or the most used spaces in the world at the moment. Quickly run through the London Olympic. This was a really long project because it was first we have to design a stadium for an Olympic game, which at the time could be the best Olympic in the world. Always the last one is the best. And then how we transform that in something that is stayed and remains for the community. So I think the work that we did at the time for the Olympic, it was a great success. Obviously, we were coming from the Beijing Stadium, which was a huge infrastructure, so we were really aware of how, the scale and what it was needed at the time, and then how you can bring the best experience from an Olympic game in London 2012. But then the challenge was like, okay, how we can make the same experience or even better for a football team, and now that is playing. So we have to get our head around and transform the stadium, which takes a few years. And now, as you know, it's the home stadium of West Ham, and I think so far it's working quite well. Next, this is Allianz Field, Minnesota in the US for the MLS. The whole design, the whole point behind the stadium was to create a really continuous flowing architect piece. I know that I'm putting an interior picture of it, but I think this is a good summary of the space again, because that concept of flowing between spaces is summarized in this picture, where you're sitting in it's called the Brewer Hall. It's the most successful space for hospitality. And you're connected with the field. It's a kind of outdoor, indoor space with a double-faced bar. So the whole time, don't take me like that, but the American sport is different than football. So how can you still make them go to the bars and use the facility without losing the game, because Orlando doesn't have any stop time. Next, we got TQL Stadium in Cincinnati, another of the MLS stadium. This was, or is at the time, one of the biggest MLS stadium specific, and the challenge here was how do you bring a really iconic piece of architect in the center, in the heart of the city? So can you dialogue with the existing buildings, but also how you can activate to the game day, because the fan base of Cincinnati are one of the loudest and bravest. So it's like, okay, how can I make this work in a normal daytime, dialogue with the city, but also kind of activate into the game day? So we create this parametric facade. It's at 200 and something fins that they light up, so it's almost like a full 360 screen, but it's still really respectful with the neighborhood around it. Changing the scale quite a bit. This is in Hong Kong, high-tech sport complex. The challenge here was how can I bring 7.4 million people to a sport entertainment district? So this was, or is located, sorry, this is construction right now, where the old airport was. So as you can see, there's a main 55-seat stadium capacity, but also a lot of sport, little community events. So again, Hong Kong, as you know, is a really dense city, so we have to make a little bit of the heart of the sport so they can bring and use this facility. Next, probably you know this one. This is Tottenham Hotspur. I think this one set up a new benchmark in global stadium design. The whole point behind this is how can I run events and retain the same quality. So I don't need to make up a lot of things, or if I'm doing a football game or an American football game, the quality for a spectator is the same. Last weekend on Sunday was an NFL game, so they have a contract with NFL games running 2 games a year, so it's been really successful. You barely need to touch anything on the stadium other than just remove the pitch, which is easier than it seems. And you can have a stadium that works perfectly for both worlds. The success of this stadium also was that it kind of started to incorporate the American model of ticketing into the European sport. So you have, rather than 3 tickets, upper, mid, and lower stand, you have 10 type of ticket that always bring you an experience. So from I'm in the G8 seat, but have the longest bar in the Europe, and I'm in the super VIP, and I'm having a Michelin star dining before my game. So I think that's one of the biggest success of the stadium, and what kind of is been trying to replicate or understand how it works so we can adapt it. This is one of the spaces I was saying. You can see some of the spaces that we produce, and these are some of them GA space, so it's quite far from the normal GA spaces that we can see in any of the stadiums at the moment in Europe. This is a quite new one and interesting because we had the Cricket World Cup in New York this year, so how we can create a stadium built in 6 months, but can still bring the experience to be in a permanent stadium. So this has a lot of stories behind, so a few of the details, like the grandstand that you can see here are the ones that they use for the F1 Grand Prix in Vegas. So again, it's a really important sustainable point on the way that we construct this. And again, the experience from any spectator within the stadium is not far from any permanent stadium in the world. So we managed to achieve any of these shows, you can see it and you see, oh, this is a permanent stadium, and they got deconstructed after the event. And now we move to the future, not that far, but this is probably you've seen this one. It's a shortlisted stadium, a host stadium for the World Cup 2034 in Saudi Arabia. The brief was, how can you build a football stadium by a 200-meter cliff? So it was quite a challenge, and you can see there's like a frame around the stadium. So the idea is that that frame is almost like a huge TV, real TV. You can see the whole city from it. So the stand is missing, the stadium is missing one of the side stand, which I don't know what's happening when the ball's gonna go out there. We'll figure it out. But the whole point is to create, use the latest technology and the latest experience and create this unbelievable, stadium where we still figure out things. As you know, in the area, a lot of the spectators love eSport. We'll see something later. So we are working to create that massive frame, natural frame that we have because of the design, into a holometric screen. So we'll see they can play eSport in a massive 65 by 50 meter screen or frame. And latest, we have the Qiddiya eSport Arena. This, it would be a specific eSport arena in Saudi Arabia. So the target is to, by 2030, create a eSport and gaming hub there, so they can bring around 10 million people. The story behind here also, when we were doing the project, is we found out that at least 29% of the local community are really into esports. So even if they don't have those huge events, you can still scale it down and do a more community and other kind of events. So these two latest are the future, but as I said, they're not far off being reality. So now I'm gonna give it over to Simon that probably have more details and more how these things actually work.
Thank you. So now we're going to take a little bit of time to sort of go through our process and let you have a bit of understanding of actually how we approach these projects and actually how all of that Jorge has just shown you comes to life. Although there's a lot of clever people designing there's also a lot of insights that go into that work that actually give us what we come up with. So I've sort of posed this question as a starting point about what is fan experience. And fan experience, depending on your perspective, can be different. You know, is it the live event that you're going to see, the sporting event within the venue itself? Is it the physical interventions that you can put within the environment of a venue, of a sporting event that connect people? Or is it the organic moments that happen as a consequence of people meeting and giving them the opportunity to create those experiences themselves? But for us, our approach generally hones back to these three principles. One, it's understanding the purpose of your place, of your development, of your venue. What do you stand for? What do you want to be? What do you want people to walk out of there thinking after they've seen an event? You know, is it, I've had the most amazing experience, or I can really see sustainability as at the key of this building? You know, understanding that is a key component. The partnerships that you connect with, so the sponsors that are on board, how do they help extend that platform, extend that reach of your message within your venue? And then the final bit is people. What do they want? What do they want now? What do they want next year? What do they want in 5 years? A lot of our projects, when we start working on them, are 5 years before completion. So when we're working in advance. We're looking forward. We're doing research with data insights into what people want, and that informs a lot of the work that we do. I've been working, as Jorge said, or both of us have been working with Populous for quite a while. And one of the things that is constantly changing is how people engage with our venue, how fandom has changed. And in some instances, it's accelerating. So there is a core, when we're looking at football, for example, there is a core demographic of season ticket holders who do the same thing every week. They go to the same bar, they leave at the same time, they go to the football match, or they join the football stadium at the same time. But there's another group that's constantly changing and constantly evolving, and we're seeing that across a wide range of sports sectors that we're working within. So how we understand that is looking at data insights. So what I'm going to show you now is a sort of pick and mix of various projects that kind of illustrate the process that we go through. So this was some research that we'd recently done for a Women's Super League team in the UK, looking at how they engage with fans and what the market is. So we did a lot of data insight. You can see what people want. We understand that there's a big bell curve with regards to female sport, but the translation of that popularity of the sport to the experience that happens in the venue, there's a disconnect. And our ability to understand that and actually provide authentic experiences that people going to watch female sport want was really critical as part of this study. So we did a lot of insights into this, and we'll do it for each project that we work on. So interesting things about how people want to engage with F&B, for example, the types of spaces that they want to be within. You know, rather than with hospitality having suites, they wanted more communal areas and the ability to be able to meet. So this is really fundamental to underpinning our understanding of the users, but also understanding the purpose of the venue. If the venue isn't really clear on its position in the market, we work with them to kind of hone that as well. So as a consequence of that, we need to diversify how we engage with fans. We need to understand them, we need to understand the market, but then we need to build the experiences within the venue. And we work on both on plan, working directly with the architectural teams within our office, so we're informing the design processes as we go. But we also work with venues that already exist, and we go in and we do an assessment of their current experience, and we build on that. And some of the processes that we go through is it's important to understand how users behave in your building. It's not one size fits all. So on this example, it's looking at how people engage with your venue when they come to the venue. You have a super fan, you have a last minute chancer, you have a VIP customer. All of them touch the venue or your venue at different times. They go through different routes, they want different experiences. Understanding that is fundamental to building a 360 experience that will connect with them and allow you to develop more incentives for partners and sponsors to engage with you and your venue. Understanding that then starts to translate into the physical. So we'll overlay that onto the actual building. And so, sorry, take a step back. I'm going through the science of our approach. It ultimately ends up in a creative output, but this is the data that we need to be able to understand what needs to be done. So we overlay that user profiling onto the building, put it against the physical elements within the building, and it allows us to understand where potential inventory is available. And doing this allows us to really, to use an American expression, sweat the asset. We're able to see areas that wouldn't traditionally be sold as inventory within a sponsorship package, and we're able to build those into really compelling creative packages to go out to market with the sales team. So ultimately, what it ends up in is a matrix like this. So this is one that we created for Tottenham Hotspur. So we went through all that process, we looked at all the available areas, and then we put together a matrix. So each of those squares represents a piece of inventory, and the colors represent the type of sponsor or partner that might engage with it. And it allows a club, a venue owner, to be able to have a look at their venue holistically and see the balance of partnerships that you might have within a venue. So the light blue is naming rights. You can see how much naming rights you have, and is it enough? And you can start to look at where you need to position them to actually give them a package that they would be happy with. So what we would do with this is we would take a blank one to the commercial team. We'd sit down with a load of markers, color for each type of partner, and we'd start to color in. So we get a clear spread of what they wanted within their venue. The other key part of what we're doing is looking at that piece that I spoke at the beginning of purpose. And our experience of working with commercial teams is they'll talk to a whole range of different people. But we're starting to work with them to define the purpose and then connect that purpose to specific brands. So this is another project that we worked on for the Women's Open Golf, where we had to fundamentally change the approach they were taking with the event. And looked at their purpose and then put together a package of different sponsors that would connect with that purpose. So if you're looking at sustainability, what potential partners have the same sort of ethos as that would be appropriate to be able to excel your purpose to promote the idea of sustainability. So this is something that we would do, and then from that, the commercial team have more of a focus on who they want to talk to be able to continue that idea of the particular event or venue itself. Once we hone that down, we start to get people that are being brought to the fore. So we will work with the commercial team to look at particular partners and look at how that partnership would relate to their venue itself. So this is looking at an airline for a venue, and then we looked at the alignment of both the venue and the brand itself, what they wanted to promote, and look at how they would translate into the building, and then built that into a series of images and visuals that they use to go to speak to the particular brand to convince them or to form a platform for commercial negotiations. And just to sort of conclude the conversation on the science, and I've got a few case studies to follow this that kind of show this in its full fruition. This is a diagram that we put together for a client to explain the process. And it's looking at how you've got two essentially opposing points, where you've got the purpose of the venue and you've got the brand of your potential partner. And the idea is to find the commonalities between the two and actually provide a proposition that benefits both. And it aligns to both the values of the naming rights sponsor and the venue itself. And that becomes the basis of the purpose to take forward. So that's the sciencey bit. So now we're going to go through three projects, an event, a venue, and a football club. So this is the AIG Women's Open. We were asked by the RNA, I think probably 4 years ago now, to look at the event holistically and to fundamentally change it. They wanted to re-engage the sport with a wider audience, female and male, but younger demographic, look at grassroots. So our objective was to look at what was required to be able to make that happen. So we came up with this idea, well, we didn't come up with this idea. The proposition was to maintain that it was focused around women, so they were at the center of all the conversations. It was connected, so we're looking at how we spoke on social, through the press, that communication. Sustainability was a key component of this, and culture and lifestyle. So these were the four main pillars that we used to actually sort of build out this concept. We were looking at how it was presented as far as a narrative. We looked at a brand, and we also looked at physically how it would engage. So we looked at all the components that we'd have to bring to play to make this an appealing and an event that would able to change the way people approached golf and attract a much wider audience. And these are a few images of the first event, which is at Walton Heath. So we developed a whole new branding package, a whole range of engagements. The whole atmosphere of the golf festival village had changed from more engaging, more relaxed, different food and beverage offer. The retail offer was completely different. We were able to attract a range of different brands who were more connected with that whole process, as well as providing a whole range of activations. We also had a session stage where we invited key stakeholders and key leaders within various industries to talk. And that's an ongoing aspect of it. This was on social media. It was being promoted beforehand. And then as a consequence, in its first year, it was up 50% on attendees. Dwell time in the event was 3.5 hours longer than it was before. As a consequence, we increased revenue, increased sales. Next project, Co-op Live, recently opened. It's part of the Etihad campus. City Football Group are a major stakeholder within the venue. When we were working on it from the beginning, we worked with OVG to help them identify and get the contract with Co-op, and then our role was bringing Co-op to life and understanding what they were. When we were working with them and they came on board, having a high street supermarket as a naming rights brand on a music venue, on the face of it, seemed to be a challenge. But as we got under the skin of what Co-op do, their ethos was about community, it was about giving back, it was about charity, they worked with schools, and there was a lot within their culture that you don't see within their shops, which was really prominent on the way that we approached branding. So the other thing was celebrating Manchester's musical heritage. That was all part of the sort of community aspect, making it authentic, connecting it to the local community, the local area. We also had a range of different things where we had this idea of telling your story. So we opened up the concourses to allow artists, poets, musicians to actually present their work visually on the wall. So we produced a whole range of graphics talking to this that were produced throughout the concourse. The little image of this is a table, Co-op have a recycling program where they recycle all their plastic bottles and make school chairs. So it was a kind of nice spin on that to sort of get people to look at that and think, well, what are we talking about? And read that they have this program to provide chairs and tables to local schools in the area. The other thing we did is looked at the experience within the venue and looking at uniforms and how uniforms, F&B, and how that was presented. It was key for us to present this in a way that the people who were serving and what they were serving were like the people who were going to the venue. It was taking away the idea of it being completely corporate, to be more in tune with the culture of the city, in tune with the people that are going, and providing a range of look and feel that connected with that. And then the final one, this is a recent project. This is for Deportivo La Coruña. We're in Spain. It's recent. I thought it'd be a good one to finish up on. So we were asked by the club to look at their brand, look at how their brand would apply to various areas within various parts of their organization. So we took what they had as an identity, looked at the nature of that, and built that out into a package. So the idea was to take the idea of the stripe on their kit and actually bring that to life, but also celebrating the environment of Coruña itself and actually the natural environment and sort of bringing that into play into the graphic look and feel. So we wrapped a palette of elements that we used to to create this expanded brand for them. And then we rolled that out into a range of areas. So these are all visuals that are under development, but we're looking at actually how we bring that into play. So this was about connecting the brand with the players within the club itself, and actually giving some heritage to who they're playing for, and give them identity, and make them understand in a little bit more deeper sense the brand of the club and where it came from. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, gents. Thank you very much. Cheers, Jorge. Thank you. Can I get the clicker from you? Thank you very much. Okay. Wow. I have to say, absolutely fascinated by that, and just really mind-boggling some of the projects that Populous are undertaking. I mean, I had a 6-hour struggle and ordeal just trying to build my new IKEA wardrobe last week, so I'm actually in awe of seeing what these gents are doing